6 games are still remaining. Barkley is on pace to pass Eric Dickerson's record for the most rushing yards in a single season in NFL history that was set 60 years ago. RC, what did you like about Saquon in that Eagles run game specifically?
Well, I think, one, it's the explosiveness of Saquon Barkley that makes this offense different than it was with Miles Sanders or even DeAndre Swift, who had career years when they were in Philadelphia. But you got to mention names like Becton. You also have to mention names like Dickerson, Johnson, Mailata, and Jurgens, and what they were doing up front. He has over 630 yards before contact. And when you put someone like Saquon Barkley and get him an opportunity to get going, we often speak of Derrick Henry in this way because of the physicality. But with Saquon Barkley, to me, it's all about the burst. Once he gets into the open field and gets into that second and third level, he's one of the few running backs that can pull away from defensive backs and defenders on the back end. And we saw that a prime example last night.
When the Eagles went to the Super Bowl in 2022, what was the driving force in them going?
It was the run game.
This offensive line is starting to look like that unit from 2022, because the main thing that they did was just change the line of scrimmage. Like those double teams would displace the line of scrimmage, and you're starting to see that be the main thing that they're doing. The left side, that defensive tackle starts to be 2-3 yards down the field. Cam Jurgens is consistently climbing up to those backers, and Becton right now is just bullying people. And so on 3rd and 3, Saquon only gets 5, 6, 7 yards, but they stay consistent to it. Look at the push. That is a new line of scrimmage for that offensive line. And Becton, again, getting up to second-level defenders, in many ways bullying them.
Watch out.
I think that's what happens is Saquon's vision has improved so much since he came over from the Giants. That safety's going to insert in. He's tempting him or baiting him to get in there, and now he gets out on the perimeter. That was one of the things that I wanted to see when they signed Saquon, was if this offensive line performed the way that it did, would his vision get a little bit better? His vision now is not only taking advantage of blocks, but watch how he leaves Covey out here for that corner. Night. I think the combination of this offensive line looking like the 2022 one and Saquon's vision just getting so much better, it's a threat in the run game right now.
Your vision can get better when you stop getting punched in the eyeballs.
Stop getting hit behind the line of scrimmage.
For real. Go ahead. Sorry.
You guys remember when Kevin Durant joined the Warriors in 2016?
Yeah.
That's how I feel watching this
Talk
run
that
game.
basketball.
I'm just
okay?
saying, it's what happens if you take something that's already great and then add someone who's
greater.
unbelievable. It's an incredible combination for all the reasons you guys. I mean, Ryan, you talked about the yards before contact. Last night alone, 213 yards before Saquon was contacted. Some of that is because of his vision. A lot of it is because of this offensive line. And then you add on top of that a back who seems to hit a different gear when he gets to the open field. He's so explosive. Look, to spin this forward a little bit, because there's going to be a lot of conversation this offseason about what the Eagles did when they signed Saquon.
Yeah.
My takeaway isn't that every team should pay, top dollar for a great running back. My take is if you have a great offensive line, then it's worth adding a special back as a force multiplier, as we have seen, by the way, with Green Bay and Baltimore, 2 other teams we're going to talk about.
I think we would be remiss as well, like, how many people do you think corners can cover A.J. one-on-one in the NFC? A.J. Brown, because
true.
that's not really where it's coming down to.
It's coming down to that, but I think last night you saw that Kellen Moore went players over plays a ton. It was a ton of A.J. in the pass game, and then obviously Saquon as a runner as well.
Man, we see so much of it, and you guys are talking all about the offense, which is warranted, but how about that defense? Okay, we can't end this without a thought of the defense. How do they hold the Rams in check?
First of all, they were so good up front. Physicality in the run game, but more importantly to the tune of 5 sacks against Matthew Stafford, and they knew that pressure had to come from the center of the pocket. And you saw him working all night. This twist game where Milton gets the sack, but Carter causes this play. It was very smart. Nakobe Dean, obviously, look where these sacks are happening, because we all know in Matthew Stafford, if you give him opportunities in the center of that pocket and to play on time, he will carve any defense up in the league. You could see a concerted effort to make sure that there was no step up. They wanted him to roll. They wanted him to get outside the structure in order to try to make plays and extend plays. I saw 2 games this week where the rush plan took over the football game. We're going to get to one later.
I feel like the offense and defense are kind of similar in Philly. I think the number one question you always have to ask or start with, again, on the offense, how do we cover A.J.? And then I think as an offensive person, how do we block Jalen Carter? I think everybody on that defense is playing really well on their front, but in main parts because Jalen is commanding a double team. run or pass.
I know we talked about real quick. We talked about the psychological part with Philly last year when they were falling off a cliff. Dio, RC, MK, and Laura, they back to being physical. Bro.
Yeah.
Like it's littered all over the tape. And I'm not just talking about in the line of scrimmage. Wide receivers are containing blocks. Yeah. Like everybody feels like they're back to that 2 years ago.
They're playing a little bit of bully ball again.
A little bully ball,
and that's their identity.
Yep.
You can see the confidence that's bred from that. Dan, as you look at this 49ers team, is the season over for them?
I mean, for them, yes, because this season wasn't about just getting into the dance or trying to win the division. Right. This is a team that's been the NFC title game 3 out of 4 years that lost essentially or exactly on the last play of the game last year in the Super Bowl. So it was, can they go win it again? And it looks, because of the injuries, because of really the crux is the poor offensive line play. That's really been the issue. Again, Brandon Ayuk not being there, the McCaffrey time missed, Hargrave on the defensive front, Bosa not being there yesterday, no doubt. The reality is this is a different offensive line in San Francisco. This offensive line cannot be one that wins the NFC nor goes and represents this team in the Super Bowl. Can they get into the playoffs still? Maybe, but that was never their goal.
You look at, they just are so discombobulated. Like, this is the first time we've talked about San Francisco where and obviously the injury, we have to mention that,
yeah,
right? The reality is this team was really heavy laden with a lot of talent, and they were able to overcome a lot of things. But now it seems they have no identity. It seems Kyle Shanahan is confused in a lot of things that he's doing. But I look at the defense.